What's your worst I know this looks bad, but I can explain moment? Years ago I was dating this girl. And I had just acquired a black powder gun. Now for those of you who don't know, one of the parts on many of the black powder guns is called a nipple. And usually require a wrench to get off. Mine didn't have this wrench, so I punched in Ruger nipple wrench into Google and went downstairs to grab a drink. When I come back into her room, she's looking at my laptop. Wide-eyed and nervously says I don't know if I would be into that. Cue my reaction of what? No. Wait, it's a gun tool thing, I swear. Edit. I can English. I promise. Mine's a little different. I was at a corporate function and noticed that the president of the company was trying to clean his glasses with a paper napkin. Being the well-prepared person I am, I always keep a microfiber cloth in my pocket. I wear glasses too, and I prefer to actually clean the glasses, not just smudge the oils around. I digress. So I reach into my pocket, grab a cloth, and hand it to him. And he responds with a confused hug. Now, at this time I also have a son who is going through potty training. So I tended to keep spare clothes, usually in my backpack, but also in the pockets of my overcoat. I look over, and the president of my company is kind of staring at the unused, thank God, pair of Jake and the Netherlands Pirates underwear. Boy's size small. I just handed him. And of course, my immediate response wasn't to laugh. Wasn't to say, oh, those are my kids' backup pair. No. My response was to immediately say those aren't mine. Which was 1, obvious. And 2, not guilty sounding at all. When my daughter was around 3 years old, she casually told my wife that daddy likes to come into my room naked and play with me. It took a minute to realize what she was talking about. A few weeks prior to that, she had woken up screaming. Bad dream. I'm guessing. I jump out of bed wearing nothing but boxer briefs to see what the problem was. To get her to stop crying, I tried to make her laugh. Luckily, my wife believed me. Of course, Abby, I trust you. I work at a school portrait company. I retouch thousands of images and sometimes I need to retouch inappropriate things. Well, this high school girl was wearing a see-through shirt and I had to retouch out her nipples. I was in the office by myself as a 20-something-year-old man when a girl walks in and sees me zoomed in on this high school girl's see-through shirt. I can explain. I told her I'm not a creep. I'm just retouching her shirt so you can't see her nipples. It was very awkward, but since she worked as a photographer she completely understood once I explained. As a broke college kid, one of my go-to meals was a $0 69 chili dog from 7-11, which was 4 blocks from my dorm. I had no car. One winter's night, I bundled up in my heavy coat, gloves, and beanie and went to get Missile 1. So I'm heading back, holding my foil-wrapped dinner, and decide to run, to get out of the cold faster. Common next thing I know, cop car screeches to a halt in front of me, and I'm ordered to the ground. Spent the next couple minutes explaining to NJPD why I'm running out of a convenience store. At night, in a ski mask, waving a shiny metal object. TLDR. Suspected assault with a deadly whiner. This happened in high school, shortly after I started dating my first boyfriend. At the time, I would often wear a camisole with a built-in bra layered under a v-neck tee. One day, I was wearing this outfit but wanted to go shopping after school for other shirts. So I brought a regular bra with me to try stuff on. After I got out of the store, I for some reason didn't want to put the bra in my bag, so I put it in the armrest compartment between the front seats of my dad's car. And of course immediately forgot it was there. The next day, my parents were getting ready to go somewhere. They had left the house. But moments later my mom barged back in, demanding to know why I was taking off my clothes in the car. I frantically tried to explain the clothes shopping story, but to this day I'm not sure she bought it. I thought for sure the turn was going to be your mom blaming your dad for having an affair. I was really tall in junior high. One of my best friends at the time was pretty short. And we had a running joke where he would use a little kid voice whenever standing next to me. Because I was so much taller. So one day we're playing tag around my church building. Grew up in a conservative house after most people had already left. And my buddy runs into the bathroom and locks himself in a stall. But I was taller than the wall of the stall. So I pressed up against it and looked down at him and said in my best creepy voice, "You can't hide from me." And he used his little kid voice to say, "Oh no. Somebody please help." Of course. One of the old church ladies was standing in the doorway behind us. Watching the whole thing with horror. Turns out she was there to clean. And caught us at exactly the wrong time. 4th grade. All of the kids in my class had figured out that they could get up to sharpen their pencils whenever they wanted. A way to break up the monotony, I suppose. Several students abused this privilege and I didn't want to be counted among the abusers. As MRS. Spangler had become vocal about this. During an assignment. My pencil was dull to the point that the wood was scratching on my paper. I decided to use my thumbnail to break the wood away from the tip and expose the graphite so that I didn't have to sharpen it. As I was doing this, my teacher walked by and exclaimed, "You're trying to break your pencil." I didn't have time to establish a defense before she admonished me in front of the class. I still think about it sometimes. I'm 37. You all are cracking me up with your stories. It's nice to know that I wasn't alone in my anxiety-riddled adolescence. I was practicing anatomy for drawing, of course. So, I had to look up naked models and stuff. No big deal. Just to get the human form down. Nothing too weird. I get done sketching for the day and went to bed. Over the weekend I was animating and my dad walked in my room to ask me something. Well, he goes, "What the hell?" and picks up a drawing. I was like, "What?" And he sees these drawings. I legit said the line, "Wait." In the beginning months of a relationship, I was staying over at my girlfriend's apartment. We were in bed. And the only light in the room came from a bright lamp on the end table. On her side of the bed. Now, in addition to being a bit sensitive to bright light, I have a lazy eye that makes it hard to focus on things that are really close. Things like my girlfriend. At that particular moment. So naturally, I asked, "Could you turn off the light? You're really hard to look at." I don't know which of us had the bigger look of horror on our faces. My first silver. And I came so close to not posting. Thinking it wasn't quality enough a comment. I was 18 or 19 and was really close friends with a girl who had a little sister and her birthday was coming up. I can't remember how old the sister was, but she was still in the Chuck E. Cheese era and that's where she wanted to go. Parents said no. But we said yes and were happy to take her. I didn't consider the image until we arrived. My friend had fallen off a longboard a few days prior and had a pretty nasty black eye. The little sister was in gymnastics and had injured her arm recently then as well and was in an arm sling. So in walks in a very young looking couple with a child. And both women were sporting fresh injuries while I was unscathed. The look from the hostess or whatever position she was said it all. I even felt like a monster despite not being responsible for any of it from all the glances I got from the staff. I'm shocked the cops weren't called. I was volunteering at a pool for my instructor's certification. The girl I was with was really thirsty and asked if I would mind getting her a Powerade from the vending machine since she couldn't leave her class. She told me where her wallet was so I could get her change. Another staff member walked in while I was taking the money from her wallet. I was the most straight-laced, nervous kid on earth. Lol. I explained. She either believed me or checked with the lifeguard later. But either way, the first girl got her Powerade and the pool hired me later. So the second girl knows I'm not a thief. The girl I was with was really thirsty. Nice. And asked if I would mind getting her a Powerade from the vending machine. Oh. One of my friends was in a cycling accident commuting home from class one night and wound up in the ER. She needed someone to make sure her dog, Fox, is taken care of and tells me she left her bedroom window unlocked so I should be able to get in the house. Now Fox is semi-familiar with me, but I still don't like the idea of crawling at a window and facing a pretty big dog unannounced. So I've got the window in the alley cracked and I'm trying to call Fox and let her know that I'm there and coming in. I'm saying stuff like, "Hey Foxy girl, Foxy lady etc. Meanwhile the upstairs neighbor hears all of this while she is sitting on the toilet and thinks someone is doing some perv peeping Tom stuff looking into windows. Luckily it was all cleared up pretty quickly as we were all college kids that saw each other in and out fairly often. But it almost took a bad turn. I got super high and drunk one night with my best friend and his GF. They stayed at my house. My friend is a loud snorer so his GF ended up sleeping on my couch. My best friend in my guest room upstairs. At 4 AM I woke up still pretty drunk and high. For some reason I felt the need to check social media but couldn't find my phone. Drunk and high me decided to go downstairs to find my phone. Without realizing his GF was on the couch. I reached down by a pillow to check for my phone. She wakes up. And I'm left there having to explain at 4 AM why I'm grabbing her face. I don't think she believes my story to this day and I look like a rapist. My phone was in my pocket the whole time. This was several years ago. When I was still living at home. I was dating this woman and we were at my house. Sitting on the couch watching a movie. Her head was in my lap. This is an important detail later. She was prone to migraines and was having one at that moment. She asked me to turn off the lamp on the side table because light sensitivity. And I turned it off. Then she said it was still too bright. And asked if I could put a pillow over her head. So we're sitting there still watching the movie. Out comes my dad from the bedroom. Who sees his son with his girlfriend who has her head in his lap covered by a pillow. He didn't know what to do. Until I realized what it looked like and showed him that she totally wasn't giving me a BJ in the living room. I totally went with the thought that he was looking at you like you suffocated her and was just sitting there with her laying on you still. I was out one night and forgot my keys. Was trying to climb in an open downstairs window when a cop car pulled up outside. Not a good look. Thankfully my housemate finally woke up and came down. We rented so would have been hard to prove as my ID had a different address. Also a dog followed me home and they asked if it was my dog and it was cute so I said it was. Found the owner later in the week though. Good for him them. Bad for us. When I was 16. First year of high school. Me and my buddy were trying to find the fastest way to walk to from school. And eventually found the perfect path. This path cut almost half the time off our normal trip. Which allowed us to rush home to catch the beginning of Stargate SG-1 reruns on Sci-Fi. We spent the next few days rushing home after school to catch the show. One of these days. We walk by a side street on our path. And we see a girl from class. So naturally we yell hello and wave at her. She proceeds on her path and we go our separate ways. We're pulled aside the very next day by the school administration and local PD. Because the girl in our class thought we were stalking her. Because we followed her home. And shouted things at her. It took us several hours of explanation. But we never were fully believed. The local PD told us we had to find a different path to take home. Because if we kept following her, we'd be prosecuted. To this day. It remains one of the most frustrating and hurtful moments in my life. My dad used to drive the ambulance for both my town and the neighboring town. He helped deliver the first baby in our town's ambulance after mom started going into labor during the drive to the hospital. It was a big deal and was written up in the local paper. We ended up becoming great friends with the family and we went on a few family vacations together growing up. Then my dad helped give birth to the first baby in the other town's ambulance and again got a fun little article in the newspaper. First mom sees my parents in a packed restaurant bar and runs up to my dad and shouts, jokingly, "You had another baby without Emmy?" My mom said the bar got the quietest she'd ever heard it get. I was in the middle of fapping one day. Pants around the ankles and the computer chair. Lube next to the keyboard. 3 different PRN tabs open. Then I got a phone call that a friend of a friend had died tragically. And could I make up a pamphlet for her for the funeral? The family will pay me $100. So I'm thinking, great. A chance to make some cash. I immediately switch to Photoshop and get to work. With the pic of the deceased and a big, flowery title. In loving memory. I got so involved in the work. I forgot I was still bare ass naked in the chair. So my roommate walks in and sees me looking at that in loving memory. Pamphlet. Pants around the ankles. Lube next to me. At my crush's house and she catches me washing my dick. Never great. This is a doozy. I was working in a childcare center in my first week. When a child decided to climb a chair right next to a small brick wall. In the second it took for me to realize and start reacting, he was falling headfirst into the brick wall. To stop him smashing his head open, I put the only thing that could reach him in time between him and the wall. My foot. It hits my foot. Falls to the floor and lucky is now saved from a bad head injury. Then I hear from behind me, "Did you just kick that child?" It was my supervisor. Luckily she saw the whole thing. Understood and helped me write the incident report. And more importantly, the parents understood. Laughed and thanked me. I was traveling throughout Europe while my girlfriend was back in the US. I met some people in Prague and got too drunk and somehow I had made it back to my hostel for the night. I woke up to my girlfriend FaceTiming me, so I answered and I looked up, apparently really disheveled. Saw the time on my phone. And said, OFCK. My bus to Vienna was leaving in 20 minutes and I had to hustle. So I immediately hung up on my girlfriend and started rushing around. She kept trying to call me but I didn't answer until I got to the bus station. To her this looked like I woke up. So I answered a call from her. Did not want her to see someone in bed with me. Said OFCK and immediately hung up and refused to answer for about 10 minutes. So obviously, she thought I had a girl in my bed and was cheating on her. Took a long time to convince her otherwise. My girlfriend came over to my apartment and found another girl's panties and driver's license on my bed. I'd just done the laundry. And apparently my neighbor had accidentally left some stuff in the dryer. I didn't see it and tossed my clothes in on top. Then tossed the load of finished clothes on the bed. Fortunately my explanation was helped by the fact that the whole pile of clothes was still warm from the dryer. Being the manager of a job once, I asked a young lady employee to do something like sweep or whatever. She kept giggling and acting kind of weird and I didn't know her well, so I just dismissed it and went back to my desk. When I sat down I realized I had a flashlight in my pants pocket. The way it was positioned and shaped looked like a huge hard-on. I really can't imagine what was going through her mind. My now husband and I were at an improv practice. Playing a game called Freeze. Where a couple people are in a scene trying to use big gestures and movements throughout it, and when someone standing on the outside of the scene sees a position they like, they call freeze. And take the exact position of the person and begin a completely new scene. Anyway. He was in the middle of the scene. Pretending to be a cow. Someone in the scene with him was pretending to milk him. He had his back arched and butt out. That's when a group of his old college friends walked in. It didn't look bad. It was just hilarious and embarrassing. I love improv. I've posted this before in a previous thread. Years ago. On the way back to a friend's apartment for a party after a night out. I decided to get a CD out of my car, which was parked across the road. We were all bananas drunk and most likely under the influence of certain other intoxicants. I opened the driver's door with the key and sat into the seat with one leg still outside the car. Barely holding the door open. While I searched for the disc in the center console. It should be noted that I had my right hand holding my keys resting on the top of the steering wheel. I couldn't find the CD one was looking for. So I looked up to call across to my friends going into the door of the apartment. Only to see a squad car pulled up beside me. Took a lot longer than I was comfortable with trying to convince the 3 cops that I genuinely had no intention of driving. Edit. This was about 18 years ago in Ireland.